Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Software World with Can Dost. And I am Can Dost, your host. And today, our topic is DevOps and Site Reliability Engineering as a career. And my guest is Rene Hernandez. And Rene is a Senior DevOps Engineer at Fullscript. And we will talk about the DevOps with Rene today. Welcome, Rene. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm good. Thanks again for the invite, Jan Dost. As you said, my name is Rene, and I'm a software engineer by trade, and especially focus on DevOps practices lately. I work at Fullscript close to 2 years now, and been focusing on like all the different aspects of the processing, pipeline, infrastructure, deployments, observability, monitoring within the DevOps group.
Yeah, could you give us a bit more information about your background? Like, where did you start? Like, who is Rene, for example?
Okay, so I'm originally from Cuba, and I did my bachelor degree in Cuba. While I was doing my studies, I started contributing with a remote company, and I started learn Ruby at the time, and eventually start getting involved in like deploying the code. Back then, like that implied to you connect to a remote server and you manually copy and deploy your files. Those times that always felt weird and bad. That wasn't the right way to do things. Anyways, I finished my bachelor degree. I came to Canada, Ottawa specifically, to do my master's program. Once I finished, I started working on the industry and move around a little bit until I get in Fullscript, and I'm currently working on.
It's so nice to have like people from all around the world. I mean, I had we had some guests here from, I don't know, Brazil, from Europe, from some other parts of the world. It's so amazing to like having this as a setup to meet with new people and get to know other people as well. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Since our topic is DevOps, and one thing is not clear for me in general is what is DevOps? Because like everyone talks about DevOps, everyone says, okay, DevOps is a really wide topic. Yeah, okay, but what does a DevOps engineer do in general?
That is an interesting question. DevOps, it's hard for people to agree what DevOps is. So you can look online and you're gonna find like a different number of answers and definitions and concepts. Usually we can define it as the integration between processes, people, and products. And the objective of DevOps around this is to align. Initially, it was focused on aligning development and operations towards like common goals of like shipping and releasing features faster to end users, while at the same time maintaining or improving the reliability of the services. I mean, over time that has grown, and DevOps nowadays usually includes security, and it's also called like DevSecOps and other adjacent areas of any companies, right? Compliance, finance, all those things slowly like they start to integrate towards a more agile and more aligned a structure towards the common goal of the company, which is to improve, provide better service, increase earnings, and so on. So with that said, DevOps per se is not a title. It shouldn't be a job description doing DevOps, because at the end, DevOps is around all the human aspect of integrating like people, different teams and processes. Over time, the term got co-opted, and we have like DevOps position nowadays. My title has DevOps on its name, right? So on a day-to-day, depending on the company, you can be doing different things. On my case, on a day-to-day basis, I can work on automating the deployment of a new project, of a new service within our internal or either internal or external facing. I can also work on improving the speed of our deployment pipelines. And this is important because faster deployment pipeline, it means that we get faster feedback of the changes, and the developers are more engaged on a day-to-day and on the operations and the deployments of their changes. as well, I may work on improving the observability of the system. And this is important when we are facing, I don't know, unexpected events or accidents or even an attack. You want to have a good observability and monitoring tool so you can quickly determine what are the issues that you are currently facing. And this is especially important if you're doing if you are part of an on-call rotation. So you need to be able to do two things: zoom out so you can see the whole context of what is happening, and at the same time zoom in deep so you can determine exactly what is happening. And last but not least, usually when you are in a DevOps role, you are involved in a lot of cross-team work. So it requires soft skills are important in this role. They're important in any role, but especially in this type of roles, because the success of your job not always depend entirely on you. It's on the result that the cross-team interactions produce.
Generally, my like that's what a bit confuses me, because like whenever I see the DevOps, like, or people working in DevOps are doing things most of the time affecting many people at the same time. And I understand like, for example, you talked about the fast feedback cycles with continuous delivery and etc. Like helping people to reach their goals, and like, but at the same time, you need to zoom out, see the big goals. Like, this is what confuses me a little bit, because when I think about a software engineer, most of the time they have the goal of, I don't know, maybe feature release, maybe they're developing API and etc., doing things. And most of the time, if I think about the backend engineering, for example, they are responsible for this day from their services. They're responsible of them, and then they are deploying these services. They are setting up continuous development pipelines, continuous integration pipelines, and it's like all pipelines they are setting up. Then I step back and I say, okay, backend engineer does this all things around their services because they own it. And then when I think about DevOps, how does it fit into here? Like, backend engineer has these responsibilities. I mean, in some companies they are separated, of course, for sure. But in, let's say, small to medium-sized companies, it's more of a backend engineer's shoulder. Also in growing companies. And when we put the DevOps into the equation, how can we fit into the backend engineers? How can we help, for example, take some responsibilities if it's the job?
At the end, this depends a lot in the context of the company that you are. But I would say that when you start introducing DevOps or SRE roles, they will start focusing on all the automation around your infrastructure, your pipelines, the monitoring, making easier to get feedback on changes, and that feedback reaches the correct person on time. Also, especially nowadays with cloud, a lot of these responsibilities are transferred to managed service that we run on clouds. So DevOps and SRE people start to think on a higher level, like how we integrate those services and how we make easier for those services to be consumed by our developers, either front end or back end. And the front end and back end lines are becoming fuzzy over time due to like new developments in JavaScript and the likes. So that's one point. The other point is like you can start integrating, instead of having a separated DevOps or SRE team, you can build them within your existing backend or front end teams. So you may start by having a dedicated person whose focus is gonna be on like the automation for this project. They do like maybe some feature work, but by their focus over time tend to move towards like making easier to work instead of doing like business focused work.
Yeah, I understand general how we can fit the position. That's okay. That part is more clear. I'm still considering, like, for example, let's keep the microservices, for example. Let's take it. And we are operating with microservices architecture in the company. And which means that the services will be very, very small. And then you, of course, need to build pipelines for every service. But generally, these tend to be more on a boilerplate style. You have one boilerplate, which when you create a new microservice, you just create from the boilerplate, which comes with all the pipelines and etc. Then what does DevOps do here? Like we have the engineers, then.
Okay, so in that scenario, you start to see happening in different companies, like the creation of platform teams, and the focus there is like building all the guardrails and or all the common use cases that each team is gonna have. So each individual team doesn't have to spend the time building the blocks. So that platform team will provide reusable blocks so that the teams can assemble and then they can get up and running in a matter of minutes instead of days by having to build from scratch all these blocks. And by blocks, I mean like the CI and CD pipelines, the monitoring for your deployment, the automation to deploy the infrastructure either on cloud or on a data center, and all the tracking of the source code. That's a given nowadays, but that could also fall on the responsibility of the DevOps team, and all the automation that you may have around all these areas, like chat ops to make easy to interconnect and get feedback directly on a Slack, on-call paging for product focused team. That's something that we have in our company. For example, the developers have daily on-call rotation during business hours, so they get paid when there is any alert from the product, as well as we also get alert on that.
Talked about on-call in a couple of weeks before with another great person called his name was Serhat, and then we talked about on-call, but on-call also it's a bit I found it tricky to handle, especially so when you have a DevOps, one team working on DevOps, and when you have the engineers, because you need to spread the responsibility for both sides, and that is not very clear to me still, even though after we talk with Serhat, that how can we have the on-call rotation? I mean, for example, I as a backend engineer, I built the service, and it makes sense for me to take care of if it goes down, because I know how it operates, I know how everything is set up, and etc. But how do we place, like in your company, for example, you said that you get paged, and how do you fit this DevOps or the engineer working on DevOps into the on-call here, like in non-business times as well?
So that's a good point. When we are doing on-call, like if I'm in on-call, part of the focus is to be capable of redirect like the alerts that you get to the best person to solve it. It doesn't mean that you always have to be the one that resolve the alert. You are the hub that directs all the incoming alerts to whatever people can take care of. And if you are the one that can solve it, then even better, right? We also get those alerts that are product focused as a backup in case of the on-call person from the product team is not available, so we can track it and like follow up with any of the teams that may be impacted by that. But it's important for product teams to be on call because they have context that we don't have. Like they are the ones that develop the code, like know why the features, know how the code was implemented and why it was implemented. And although I'm familiar with the code, it probably would take me way more time to figure out why it's happening than if they are the ones doing the investigation and resolution. So we tend to split the on-call in two levels in this scenario. When it's product focus alert, the on-call person for the product team address it during business hours, and we focus on all the other alerts that are non-product focused, like infrastructure changes, networking, downstream depending services that are down, pipeline change that causes issues. That's our focus with the help of product developers members to resolve any issue on the pipeline. After business hours, the responsibilities shift. The main focus after business hours is on P1 alerts, which usually means that there is an extreme issue, like the site is down, your infrastructure has down, you lost networking. And usually that doesn't involve developers. And worst case scenario, and we're seeing some impact on the product due to something that we are able to identify that was released during the day. We still have the ability to roll back changes automatically. Manually, we can do it. And in the majority of the cases, that resolution can wait until the next day once the developers are back online, and we can figure it out without the stress of the nighttime, what happened and why, and provide like a proper fix.
Okay. Now, yeah, in title we said site reliability engineering. Now in my head, it also like comes to point that, okay, where do we fit this SRE here? Like, what does okay, let's start from top. What does site reliability engineer do in general?
That's an interesting,
right?
interesting topic. Right. The history of SRE, site reliability engineer, is that it was developed in parallel by Google, while many companies in open communications and open platforms were building what is DevOps today.
Mm-hmm.
SRE came from within Google. It developed in Google. Like Google is a massive company, so they got a lot of iterations on the practices of what SRE means.
Yeah.
And usually you will see online that people will say that SRE is an implementation of DevOps. So it's a particular way of doing DevOps in the context of Google and some other companies. One thing that is interesting is once the SRE started to be exported out, let's call it exported outside of Google, like companies are starting to implement SRE. What happened there is like a lot of companies didn't plan properly to how define what SRE means within their companies, and they try to copy all the practices as is from Google, and the majority of the time you're not Google, right? So you should account for what they did good, and then try to contextualize within your company and business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Similar to DevOps in that sense. But from a title standpoint,
mm-hmm.
site reliability engineering makes more sense than DevOps engineer. You're right. It's more of a job function than DevOps engineer.
So it's like if we call, okay, since it came out from DevOps, can I call every DevOps engineer in quotes, every DevOps engineer as a site reliability engineer in that case? Or are there another or couple more?
No, that's
more specialized.
That is probably not applicable. Yes, SRE is going to be more specialized than DevOps. So a DevOps engineer could either do like only infrastructure work.
Mm-hmm.
It could be only doing dev tooling
mm-hmm.
with the focus of providing the tooling for the developers to make it easier for them to do their work. It could be focused only on like building a platform. So like you will actually be doing is like product work from the point of view that you are building a platform
mm-hmm.
for your end user, which are other developers, but you may not be doing on call or taking care of the deployments per se
mm-hmm.
on that platform. So when we talk about SRE, and again, like it's usually context dependent on the company. Like there are like different. There is no one unique definition,
mm-hmm.
unless you look at the SRE in the Google definition in the book of SRE. So it's gonna be like focus on like maintaining like a certain set of services, and they take care of all the operation aspect of that service, like maintaining up and running, that it complies with the SLAs, like the service level agreements for mm-hmm. the service, like observability, monitoring, make sure that it doesn't go over too much of the SLA in order to provide like the proper amount of reliability. One thing that they did introduce as part of the SRE that it wasn't as known before is the focus for the SRE on engineering and automation. So you need to, if you're doing SRE, and in general, if you're doing DevOps, you should cap the amount of manual operation and firefighting that you have to do. Because usually the amount of operation and manual toil that you need to deal with on a daily basis is going to increase as your company increases, as your product increases, as your headcount increases, because you have to account for more people, more resources, more traffic, and a whole lot of other interdependencies. So the only way to keep up is through automation and software engineering.
So for SRE or DevOps general, you mean?
Yeah, that's applicable in both cases. But that was brought up to the front, to the forefront by the SRE and the SRE definition in Google.
Okay. Yeah. Now it's a bit more clear, at least to me. Yeah, we have SRE engineers and we have DevOps team at work in our company. But I was always struggling to identify which one does which thing, you know. It was always like unclear. There are always unclear boundaries. Saying, okay, I ask questions to wrong people. For example, they say, no, this is SRE, then go to SRE.
That would tend to happen. For what I've seen, usually when you have the division between SRE and a DevOps team, usually the SRE is going to be focused more on in the infrastructure, all the monitoring, the deployment automation, observability, and making sure all the services are running as they are supposed to be. And then the DevOps team within the general DevOps group is going to be focused more on dev tooling, some internal platform for the developers, managing the pipelines or the building blocks of the pipelines and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Now I want to focus on a bit on the career side because that's where I'm a little bit more interested. Since I'm not a DevOps engineer, but I want to learn a bit how does a career path look like for DevOps. Okay, DevOps engineer title might not be correct term, as you said, but if someone is curious and would like to learn and grow their career on that path, first, where they start, second, where they go, in which way? Of course, it's a very wide area, but do you have some, I don't know, some things that they can identify and foresee before?
Yes, and some of those things I learned them through experience and mistakes on my own as well. So I would say that there are two differences. You may be brand new to the industry, like you just graduated from college or a boot camp or self-taught, and you're looking for your first job, or you already have experience in the industry, like you're a front-end or back-end engineer or a sysadmin or IT operations, and you are looking to move towards DevOps practices. So if you're starting from scratch or brand new, and then it's somewhat a little bit harder, in my opinion, to get into DevOps. Usually, companies tend to look for people that have somewhat already software engineering experience or sysadmin experience or IT operations before jumping into DevOps. I mean, it can be done. Like companies are hiring junior positions, but in those scenarios, like I would say, the most important for the person would be they need to be interested in covering all the software development lifecycle from end to end. And that's something that I realized that for me, it was important from the beginning because I was learning how to code, I was building programs, but as soon as I had to start focusing on deploying what I was building, and I realized how messy it was back then, it was it has to be a better way. I cannot imagine deploying features like this for the rest of my life. So I started to explore in GitHub. At the time, it was hard in Cuba, but we have some minimal internet access and how to start deploying. I found out about Heroku, which is a PaaS platform, and it makes it easy to deploy your code. Especially back then, that was it looked like a miracle to me. So starting to get in touch with deployment practices and how to build your software all the way from code to deployment. That's how I would say that you want to start, and getting familiar with all the high level components of DevOps, like coding, of course, how you build your continuous integration and continuous deployment pipeline. Then what happens when you deploy, where you're going to deploy, you need to define whether if you are deploying directly to a server or if you are deploying to a platform as a service or if you're deploying to cloud, and be mindful of the difference in those scenarios. And then what happens after you deploy? How do you verify that your code is doing what is expected to do after deployment, and the health of the services where the system is up and running and is doing fine. And then after you have that high level overview, then you can start focusing down on a particular niche that interests you the more, right? But once you have these high level overviews, which you can achieve with open source projects, and you can get involved, or from your own open source projects, you can start by creating a project and configuring all the CI/CD process with GitHub Actions and deploying to any of the free offerings that Heroku, DigitalOcean, and Netlify, for example. All of them, they have free offerings, and that give you that first introduction to the area, and you can take it from there. And depending on the particular company that you get into, that may be a completely different scenario, of course. But having those high level knowledge and then building the fundamentals is going to allow you to go either way. Now, for the other side of the question, like if you already have experience either as a software engineering or as a sysadmin and IT operations, then I would say one of the important things is start to be open to a different point of view. So if you're from software engineering and you are used to like everything have to be written in code and we don't do anything manual, then you need to start understanding why some things are being done manually nowadays, because there may be like historic reasons of why that is happening. So it's not like I'm going to be a DevOps and we're going to do everything now my way, like coding and everything. No, there is a balance that you need to understand. If you're coming from an ops, traditional sysadmin and operations team, then you need to start like focusing on learning code and learning better how to code. Probably that's an important one, and getting exposed to all these different practices of infrastructure as code and automation, deployment pipelines, instead of like one-off a script, like how to build reusable components that can be building blocks for other future projects. So usually, I think the most important thing there is going to be a mindset shift from what are you traditionally doing either on software as a software engineer or a traditional sysadmin to this new world of DevOps engineer.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I'm thinking like, do I have a question about that? I really don't have. It's like it's like, okay, now all my questions resolved, but I'm not sure if anyone has a question from our viewers or listeners. That so you can ask your questions if you are watching or listening this. But yeah, it's like I'm a software engineer, and my point of DevOps was a little bit changed. When, as you said, when I look a bit in a different perspective of, I mean, okay, now this is another area. I mean, I was trying to deploy some services via Travis CI and trying to like write some YAML file, which make the Travis do its job. Basically, I was like really annoyed not being able to like make it faster and etc. Like, okay, now I have the Docker as well. Okay, but what am I gonna do with these? And everything comes together. And it's like, okay, now it takes, I don't know, 20 minutes, let's say. Now it's too long. Now how can I make it shorter? Because I don't want to wait 20 minutes every time I make a change to see it is live. Then when I started looking at with these kind of perspective, then I realized it's like, okay, now this might be part of DevOps practices, because that's, I mean, basically trying to make delivery faster, deployments in a more efficient way, and etc. And I'm not a DevOps engineer, but that's like if I want to have a switch to a DevOps engineer, I have kind of an answer already.
Good.
Yeah. Now I have some thoughts now. So all the things we are talking about, then what are the benefits am I gonna get from DevOps? Like, let's say I became a DevOps engineer, and I say, okay. I don't know, I chose one of the paths that you now recommended. Now, what benefits as a person, as a career, am I going to get in general?
Okay, let's start from probably the most important one for a lot of people. Like, DevOps is nowadays one of the best paid jobs in the industry. It's one of the more in demand. So
you get money.
So
right?
if money is important to you, and it's important for everyone up to a certain point, then you are not going to do wrong going with DevOps. Beyond just that, being on being on DevOps is going to expose you to a lot of different areas, and not only within DevOps, but with other teams. And not only the development or product teams, you're also going to be in touch with security folks as you start to integrate security within the overarching DevOps strategy, and also interacting with customer support and compliance and finance, and like eventually it's possible to reach out to the whole company. So that's something you get exposed, and you're gonna learn a lot of different things. And then you need to decide if you want to go deeper into a particular area, or if you want to continue to growing your knowledge horizontally between different areas. Besides that, at least for me, and this one is more particular for me, like being in DevOps has given me the ability that no matter in which project I'm on or which context, I know that I can take it from the beginning to the end by myself if I have to. Like I know how I know how to code. I was software engineering before like getting into DevOps. I know how to build deployment pipelines, and if I don't know for this particular one, I know that I'm capable of figuring it out and learning how to do it, deploying and management post-deployment related tasks.
So can we call you a self-reliable engineer now?
Well, maybe. Also, and this one again may be more particular to my current team than, and it may not be applicable in other companies. We do have a lot of freedom on how we organize the work we do. Of course, we have sometimes works that are related to product engineering or to marketing or other companies that takes, or other parts of the company that takes priority. But in general, we have a lot of freedom organizing, like we're going to focus on this, and we have discussion, and this, we're going to decide for this. And if we get to find something that you want to improve, that is going to have like wide risk benefits, and you can allocate the time for it and do it. And that's something that I enjoy a lot. And it was in my previous experience working as a software engineer that the scope and the reach of the things that I could do were way smaller than what I can do now. So I would say those are my four main benefits.
Yeah, I think the most people are, at least I might be starting with the, so you might convince me starting from the money. But
I wanted to be clear on that, because a lot of you can see a lot around in tech that people are going to be saying that you need to have passion, that passion is the more important thing. And I do agree that passion is a good thing to have for tech, because you are always going to be learning new things. And I do a lot of open source projects, and I blog and I tweet about the DevOps. So I'm passionate about, but I also recognize that money is a big influence for people to make decisions, and DevOps is usually well paid, so it's a win-win in my case.
Yeah, I personally I understand the passion. So like I have passions on software, as I am also like what I'm trying to do here as well. This is one of the passions that's related to that one. On the side, I don't like saying people, money is not a problem, because no, it's not the case. And when people only say that, do you have the passion, then it's perfect. You don't need the money. You don't need to think the money. No. And also surveys are also showing that from Stack Overflow. It's like the most important point is money, because that's what we are doing. We are trying to live here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to quickly talk about, because that's what I'm curious also on the side. DevOps, like in on-call thing again, in the on-call talk, we talked about that DevOps changed the on-call culture in general. DevOps reshaped it. And then, as Serhat said before, that it was like one team's job, and it's, as far as I remember, it was like more on the strict points. So it was not very agile, let's say. And then DevOps changed this culture. Now it's more in everyone's responsibility, not only one person's or one team's only. But as you also said, that it's from DevOps and also some engineers who worked on the services and etc. They all take care. Now I'm curious, what has DevOps changed? I mean, we as we talked with Serhat before, on-call changed. Yes, okay. As in also DevOps, as you said previously, that it's a agile practice kind of, or born from agile. I don't know. But what else did it change in both culture and also in the business?
So in terms of culture, I would say that the biggest impact that DevOps has had across the industry in general is helping teams get together and align into how to better serve your customers or your users. At the end, like companies, the main strategy is to serve well customers, to increase retention and increase revenue, right? Before DevOps, when companies has like these deep silos between development and operations and other group as well, but the focus started on development operations, there were this confrontational point where development wanted to release features faster, so end users could benefit from those features faster, while operations were focused on maintaining the stability on the system. So the less changes we had, then the increased likelihood that the system is gonna behave correctly. Because at the end, the majority of the issues that we see on a day-to-day basis is due to a new release, to a new feature, to a new change. Yeah. Between 60 and 80% of the issues that you see on a day-to-day basis are somewhat related to a new change that was deployed.
Yeah.
But then what DevOps helped demonstrated across many iterations and many implementations on companies was that there was no need for this constant tension. Instead, what we need to focus is on release faster and release smaller changes that benefits the development and the end users in the sense that features are available sooner. And it also benefits operations because since we have smaller changes, the scope of what is going to be affected is probably going to be smaller. The blast radius of those changes is going to be also smaller. So it helps you to increase the confidence on your systems. And if you need to do a rollback or fix a change, it makes it easier to determine what is the cause of the problem, because you need to look at less change than before. From the business point of view, DevOps is an asset, in my opinion. If you're not doing DevOps and as part of this wide term of digital transformation nowadays, and in particular, if you're not doing DevOps, then you're gonna eventually lose to the competition, because the competition is gonna release faster, have better products with better reliability and availability, can get feedback from the users using your product faster if you are than the company that is not doing DevOps. And not only DevOps, not only development operations, also including security, compliance, and all these adjacent areas that benefit from a tight integration between teams working towards this common goal, having happy customers.
If I understand correctly, so the benefit of DevOps in terms of business is like you have the faster development speed, like feature development speed, because of many different things. You have faster delivery, and it means early feedback. You get more feedback from customer on the products or features that you are developing. And you said security is another benefit. You have to take care of the security of your system. It's, unavoidable in these cases. And since also DevOps is operating between teams, you have the more improved collaboration, let's say. You have a really good collaboration. You have to have. There's no other way for that one. And also you can scale easily. I think that's one thing.
It makes it easier to scale, definitely. Not only, in two sense, you can scale your business without having to scale. You can scale your business faster in relation to the number of people that you need to run the business, because you are leveraging like a lot of automation, a lot of good practices, and it makes it easier for one people to do the job that before required 3 people or 5 people.
So you don't need to scale in terms of hiring people while you are scaling a lot on the business.
Yes. And it also, like with all the newer practices that you see around DevOps and especially cloud computing, you can be more proactive about how the traffic and the scale is going to behave, which in the long term helps you to save money, which is also important.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing I think, last benefit, I'm like trying to rethink back. And last benefit seems like the reliability, that you have a better system, you have the more resilient system as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And
yeah.
On that topic, resilience and reliability are like very important part of the ops and SRE. I mean, it's part of the title of SRE.
Yeah.
So if you don't, it doesn't matter how good your service is. If it is incapable of serving your customers, no matter how good your code or how fast your code is, you're gonna be out of business eventually, right? So having reliability and all these practices around how to make sure that you have the right reliability, like chaos engineering, fault injection testing, and be capable of determining how fault tolerant your system is. It's important when designing and testing your system for reliability.
That's one open question, like
Sure.
really honest question. Is there any team or company that you heard which highly implements the chaos engineering as much as Netflix does?
Oof. I mean, Netflix is the gold standard, or
yeah, that's
in
what
that area.
I'm saying. They set the standard, but the standard is very, very, very high.
Yeah, that is true. I know about AWS teams that do that, like, and it came in like the rest of the cloud competitors, similar like Azure, Google Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
They also have those services. I mean, a few months ago, like AWS released its own managed service for chaos engineering. So it's making it easier for other people to take advantage of those capabilities without having to implement them in-house, like Netflix had to do at the time, right?
Yeah.
So I can imagine over time that's gonna get easier for people. And also, it had appeared all this set of like third-party vendors that provide chaos engineering and fault injection testing as a service. Like the one that comes to mind is Gremlin. And they are one of the organizers of ChaosConf, and they provide chaos engineering as a service. So they are capable of integrating with your pipelines and systems, and with configuration, and in some cases automatically, they determine how to proceed.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear more companies, because I was a bit skeptical on that point. Like, yeah, you need to, I don't know, like to have the chaos engineering, or maybe literally very, very resilient systems that implement using chaos engineering style it's very hard.
Just to conclude on that topic, I just want to point out that just because Netflix did it, your company, you don't have to do it. Yeah. Especially in the sense that chaos engineering is so high in your SRE or DevOps journey that before getting there, you need to cover all of your bases, right? There is no point on doing chaos engineering if you don't have if you don't deploy automatically your systems, and if you don't manage your infrastructure in an elastic way. There is no point of doing chaos engineering there, because if you have like fixed servers, you cannot kill one of the servers and see what happens. That is never going to fly. So getting there requires like a journey that is usually going to take years. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, good point. And yeah, I don't. I also don't like following, I don't know, big or perfect, very big, good companies' strategies directly, blindly. It never ends up good.
And it's also like what you see out there from this company is the best they can do, but that doesn't mean that is what they do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Internally, they may have like their own set of problems that they have to deal with, and that doesn't usually see the light, right?
Yeah. Always the media side in everyone displays the best. So
yes.
Yeah. Okay, we are closely coming to an end, and I would like to ask my last two questions, which is the first one is, what would be your top 3 recommendations for the people who would like to, like, you gave some recommendations, but top 3, top 3 recommendations for people who wants to start or maybe advance their career. Let's say grow their career in DevOps.
In DevOps, okay. So I would say first one, and probably the most important one, is get familiar with the fundamentals of DevOps. Like what is DevOps? How does it impact the business? Like the main concepts. What is how do you unify the teams? And then the main components, right? What is continuous integration, continuous deployment, observability, and monitoring, infrastructure of code, cloud computing. Like at least the general overview. Learn those things well. That's probably then. And for that, you can use like a lot of literature available. I can recommend a couple of books, especially the DevOps Handbook and Accelerate. Those are two of the best books on DevOps that I've read so far. Second, I would say you need to pick at least one, probably 2 languages. One of them will be Go to learn. Probably a good one to learn if you want to, especially as you dive deeper into the more infrastructure focus side of DevOps, Kubernetes, Docker, Terraform, all those tooling, which are very widespread nowadays. Like they are built on Go, and all the plugin and all the ecosystem around those tools are mainly on Golang. And then either Python or Ruby also as a scripting language for building the type of glue scripts that you're gonna see on the different pipelines and different cron jobs and automation that you're gonna have as part of your different projects. Of course, that combined with Bash or PowerShell is gonna be anywhere. And the third one, so the first 2, they give you the entry or the ability to grow up your technical chops in the industry. The third one, which I'm gonna say, is your soft skills and how to properly communicate and understand and listening to people and convey your message properly. And the same message may need to be conveyed differently depending who you're talking to. So you need to be able to express your message according to your audience. That's probably the third most important one. Working on your soft skills. That's what is gonna allow you to grow the furthest. So the technical skills will give you the entry point and are required to grow up to a certain point. But beyond that is the soft skills around communicating with people, convincing people, and being able to get like high level overview of the problem. And in some cases, very abstract problems that there may be or they may be not a solution, but you need to figure that out. And for that, you need to leverage your prior technical experience and work experience and combine that with your curiosity and being able to search online for ideas and reach out to people. And as part of that, your networking, which comes back to the importance of your soft skills.
Yeah, that's very nice recommendations, I would say.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. So I want to go to last round, and my last question is I adapted this from a Ladybug podcast, and I started asking people about their shout-outs. It can be anything. So anything that you want to appreciate in front of others. It can be a book, or I don't know, some person or some item, some stuff that you own and you really like. I don't know, your shoe, it can be also. Do you have a shout-out for us?
If I have to pick, so it's 2 things combined, right?
Sure.
If I want to I would shout out Nicole Forsgren. She's one of the author of Accelerate, and I also think the DevOps Handbook, but I'm not entirely sure. She's on Twitter, so you can follow her. She's currently she works at GitHub. She has had an impact on bringing a more scientific approach to DevOps in terms of doing analysis and research and determining like what does it mean to be a high performing team and a DevOps team in particular, and the impact of the tooling, the culture, the business on how well you can implement DevOps. I mean, I have learned a ton from the books and from their tweet account and from their online talks. So
great.
That's probably the main person that I want to shout out.
Yeah, the Accelerate, the book is on my list. I think I have 2 books before Accelerate, but afterwards that I'm planning to read that one. I'm really curious because I hear a lot of good recommendations about it. Yeah,
Definitely.
my shout out would be to I don't know if he's here watching us, I don't know, but to CTO of SuperPeer, Fatih, the system that we are recording this, because we had a nice session that we had a user interview. I'm the user of the system. It was really nice to directly sit with the companies, like direct CTO, and even in that level, they are trying to understand their users, and it was really nice. It was a really nice conversation, I would say. So my shout out goes to Fatih this week.
That is pretty good.
Yeah. Would you like to add anything else, Rene?
Just thank you very much for having me here, Jandos. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it has been very nice to talk to you.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to stay in touch or reach out, you can find me on Twitter, and just get in touch there.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for joining today, Rene. I really enjoyed our talk, and it was really nice. Thanks a lot for being here, actually. Yeah. And people, don't forget to follow. I shared the links also, and you can find them in the description as well. And then thanks a lot for watching or listening us, and see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.